Hey guys, continuing with our discussion of evaluations. Like I said, these next couple weeks, this is what we are going to be focusing on. A couple things that we need to know about evaluations. First and foremost, when we evaluate, we need to first formulate criteria. So what exactly are criteria? Well, they are the particular standards we establish for judging anything. This can be an idea, work, person, or product. Each of these things need some sort of criteria of evaluation. So you might ask questions such as, what characteristics do you expect from a quality product? How are players chosen for the Hall of Fame in their respective sport? And why are some aspects of culture considered offensive when utilized by other groups? So when we look at things such as products, we need to ask ourselves, what do people want out of a quality product? What are some things that people would buy these products off the shelves for? What are some of the aspects that people deem necessary versus frivolous, or that can be sort of reorganized to determine which things mean the most to each customer? So for example, the best tablets of 2015 have maximized the mobile experience, from Apple's dominating iPad to Google's Nexus series of slates. All of our top picks possess even more versatility. Tablets for work by day have to be able to turn into tablets for kids by night. They feature wider price ranges, more efficient processors, longer battery life, and thinner and lighter designs for 2015 than years past. So here we see that certain criteria when it comes to products such as tablets, people want versatility. That's the first criteria, and then followed by different price ranges and more efficient processors and longer battery life. In this next example, we might look at something like the Baseball Hall of Fame, where you might suggest that hitting 500 homers, collecting 3,000 hits, or winning 300 games does not produce an automatic ticket to Cooperstown. In fact, there is no statistical guideline. Voting baseball writers are instructed to judge each candidate on ability, integrity, sportsmanship, character, and contribution to the team or teams which he played, as well as to baseball in general. So there are things called quantitative and qualitative data. Quantitative data is anything that can be quantified, usually numbers or statistics. In the opening here, you see that 500 home runs, 3,000 hits, 300 games, those are all statistics. However, qualitative data, contrastively, looks at things that are more abstract. In this case, ability, integrity, sportsmanship, character. Those are things that, in this case, are used as the evaluative criteria, not necessarily the quantitative information. Cultural appropriation is a slippery slope to define. However, it is usually identified when the hegemony or majority in power, your analysis background, integrate aspects from minority cultures in a questionable or disrespectful manner. So here we might look at certain examples where people might say, well, I'm just buying this Halloween costume because I think it's funny, or I think that, it embodies this idea that I'm trying to represent. However, the criteria that you might use to identify whether something is funny versus offensive might look at structures or criteria based on cultural majority or cultural minority or disenfranchised sorts of background. Push your criteria to the next level. Push your criteria as far as you would imagine readers or critics will. Anticipate difficult questions and make categories clear and reasonable. So with criteria, the way to make your evaluation stronger are to make your essential categories of assessment stronger. And how do you do that? You sort of develop your criteria and then you ask questions to figure out, how can these things be made more sturdy to strengthen my particular evaluative argument? So in this case, we might ask the question, what jobs were in demand in 2015 and why? So according to Career Builder, who partnered with economic modeling specialists to compile its new list of the hottest jobs, which is based on supply and demand, they had these three particular criteria: fields and market where growth is consistent, new talent versus experience, and future necessity, which equaled the need for workforce or innovation. If these are your three initial criteria, you might come up with certain statements or questions to challenge these particular ideas. What would the opposition say? They might suggest that I obtained a degree in a field that has been oversaturated for the last 10 years. Most of the jobs that I've applied for have been outsourced or redesigned. The company that is hiring only wants people with experience, or the company that is hiring only wants new wave thinkers. One-time mega markets like oil or tobacco will need to consider the cultural shift when their products become obsolete or removed from society. So you might look at your initial criteria and then elevate them. So if your initial criteria was consistent growth, you might expand on that and say within certain fields. So if you look at a job like nursing, where 5-10 years ago this was very lucrative, however, now there's a bit of an oversaturation in the field, so you might have to expand on that, which would lead to the next thing, talent versus experience in expanding markets. People before could get a business degree and they'd be just fine, but now you need an MBA, now you need to become an NP, now you need to become a PA when it comes to expanding your horizons. And feature necessity. Are you ahead of the curve? This might be the next piece of criteria that you strengthen when looking at what jobs are popular now, opposed to what jobs might be popular or in need in the next 5 to 10 years. Keep in mind that evaluations are continuous cycles, so you do not need to scour the earth to find every single judgment or critique about your criteria. Just make sure that you test the strength of each of your criteria, because essentially that will determine how strong your evaluation will be.